Commence primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core World News.
You may fire when ready.
The Core World News, your whole-net news service providing in-depth coverage of the latest stories from every sector of the galaxy. This week, our hosts share their reactions to the new Indiana Jones feature and the end of an era before discussing new beginnings in two new Star Wars films on the horizon. Now, your hosts, Ben granted Adam to journey into a time fissure, travel back to 1969, and review Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
All right, thank you very much, Grex. Welcome back, everyone, for another edition of Core World News. There's a little blip in the transmission there. Sorry about that. Just a little something that happens around Life Day 2, The Revenge. Anywho, it's good to be back here. A lot of fun things to talk about this week. We're actually going to cover the news the whole episode, essentially. Yeah. Just got some really exciting interviews going on. And, we wanted to put a button on that indie conversation from last week just because now I think we've all seen it, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. One of you guys want to take it away on some of that? What were your takeaways from Indy, y'all?
Initial reactions? I mean, going around the circle here. Adam, do you want to speak first?
I do.
To this film? You have the deepest connection.
I do. So this is. I just wanted for listeners. This is like real fresh. Like we have not chatted too much. I mean, I did see it with Ben, and our partners. That we did have some discussion afterwards, but it was also weird because we were at a bar and I wanted to like not ruin everything because we saw it Saturday, like one of the first showings. So it's still fairly recently out, and I didn't want to like spoil anything. Which I guess is a question we'll have about spoilers we can talk about later because I don't need a spoiler for my review. But I personally, I actually really liked it. The more I've been thinking about it, I mean, the first three are always going to have a special place in my heart. Like this doesn't come anywhere near touching the original three, but like for the swan song and for kind of ending it, I don't know. It took me for a ride. It was real slow in places, and boy, did I really enjoy how slow it was in places. I don't know, I'm just the old man, but hey, Raiders is also a very slow movie if you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. So no, I really liked it. I'll say my big takeaway, I've been percolating on this for like 3 days, and then I'll toss it to you guys, is that Mangold was able to achieve Lucas's and Spielberg's vision in a way that neither of them were able to achieve in any of their Indiana Jones movies. That's a
loaded state. That's a little charged.
I will explain. That is also not to say that is a good thing, right? But here's the thing. Spielberg made Indiana Jones movies because he always wanted to make a Bond film and couldn't make a Bond film. That's why Indiana Jones happened. He kept trying to get a Bond film, and they said, the Broccoli said, no, you cannot, because we don't hire American directors. We only hire English directors. The Dial of Destiny to me felt like the most James Bond version of an Indiana Jones movie. It was super James Bondy. And then you have on the other side Lucas. When Lucas was really involved with this, his big inspiration were the Saturday matinees, where they were 10 to 15 minutes ideas, all capping in a cliffhanger. And this movie hit that. Like every 10 minutes, it's a cliffhanger. Every 15 minutes. And so I really do think Mangold like understood the assignment and almost did it too well. Like he made a really great James Bond film in a serial manner. So that's my thought. It's like, it's weird that I feel like he totally understood what they wanted to do, did it, and almost did it too well. That made it not feel like an Indiana Jones film at times. Anyway, that's my 17 cents.
It's interesting you say James Bond because, and just quickly, I did enjoy the film quite a bit. I liked it. It's not, not my favorite Indiana Jones film, but I thought it was quite good. It's interesting you're talking about the pacing, because I think it does nail the sort of like the action set piece, skinnier teeth action, the basically bombastic sort of the qualities of Indiana Jones, but at the same time, it does slow down quite a bit, and Indiana Jones doesn't feel active in the story as I feel like he does in prior films, which is good. But it's almost a hindrance because you almost want Helena Shaw to jump in and be, I guess, the Indiana Jones from the classic films, but she can't, given that this is still an Indiana Jones film, with his name in the title.
She was too busy being Marion. Like she's the fusion of Marion and Indy.
Essentially, but I think what we're all looking for is that same quality of that same energy. I think we got in those original films. I thought it was great. I don't know if it didn't feel like an Indiana Jones film as much as it felt about a film about getting older and during a time of change and advancement, and sort of how Indiana Jones and the Nazis belong to an old world that aren't meant for modernity. That's kind of what the film felt like. It felt very deep, and I was like, okay, this is deep. It doesn't feel like that sort of like serial camp, funny action slapstick. It didn't have a lot of the qualities that I remember Indiana Jones having at the start. And I'm just wondering if this is a Disney problem altogether, in that when they make these properties, they treat them as such hallowed pieces of art that almost gets in the way of the storytelling, wherein the legacy characters are shunted into the front of the frame. They're always have to go through some sort of emotional arc because they have to be squeezed of all the juice they have left. And I just don't know if that's the right approach for these properties. I think Lucasfilm properties, Amblin properties require that sort of like energized excitement to explode onto the scene with something new and fresh, instead of, oh, we got to make sure we handle this vintage carefully so it doesn't spill over the table. And it just feels like that a little bit to me. So,
sometimes playing a little too safe, would you say?
Yeah.
I totally
too safe, and
feel
almost like that's the methodology everywhere, and it almost seems like that's the proper methodology, just given that these are important works and we do want to honor the creators and honor the people that were in them and a part of them. But I wonder if that's not the right approach in the end. That's kind of
classic Grant.
A fair question.
Right to the cut of it. And it's cool hearing you say this, Grant, because Grant gave us homework, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. And it's that homework was in a long interview with James Mangold, and he talked about this movie, but it was, that's what that was the problem. He was like, this movie's got to be about getting older. And, I think you just cut to the quick of that whole movie, both of you, but, I just thought it was fun.
It was a great time. Yeah. It was a great time. And again, I think the third act of these indie films that are addressing sort of modern times, they sag, like they don't work. It almost needs to stay in the 30s and 40s. Like it almost can't really move ahead. Right. And I don't see the point of moving ahead in time, given that there's still a lot of commentary to extract from
the 60s,
the last great war on Earth. You know what I mean? Like there's so much commentary you can extrapolate from that situation that I think it's like I think there's endless mine there.
But,
and the artifact itself didn't really wow me. Like I was never really blown away by the time fishers and then in the center of a storm and then it almost felt like Indy was just telling some Nazis that they miscalculated continental drift, instead of being like an active part of that scene. That was another part that was like, okay.
Right. I got time.
Yeah, go for it.
This is what I loved about that scene so much. They just redid Raiders. He does nothing at the end of Raiders other than to say, close your eyes, right? Like that's what my favorite thing is, that this film did the exact same thing the first one did, which is basically, by the way, Indiana Jones is inconsequential. If he was not present in the first film, the Nazis all would have died. Yeah. If he wasn't present in this film, say everything else would have happened exactly the same, except less of his friends would be dead. That's the only thing that Indiana Jones did, was get his friends killed.
For me, what was dissatisfying about that third act was
I don't like the third act.
Villains.
Yeah,
the villains,
100%. Yeah,
it wasn't pronounced really. These were incredibly bad people. Like Boyd Holbrook plays essentially an American homegrown neo-Nazi, and
where's our face melting? Yeah. Where's our eaten by crocodiles? Where's our aging rapidly? Yeah, I agree.
And I think Indy needed to throw one last quip at Voller, basically. I almost felt like there was they didn't really there wasn't really a denouement for that send for those villains. They just are like, there's no I'm not looking for Inglorious Bastards. I'm just looking for something that gets a little bit to the idea that these are bad guys and they should go horrifically, or Indy should say something that makes their entire endeavor a joke. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, that's kind of what I wanted out of that scene. But
there's a history of Indy fighting giant hulking men, right? It's literally in every movie. The first one gets chopped to bits by a plane. The second one gets crushed by a stone crusher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember what happens in the third one.
Sure.
Can't remember what happens in the fourth one, but who remembers what happens in the fourth
A
one?
tank
anyway?
tread. One guy I think goes up a tank.
Tank
yeah.
tread, right? Eaten by ants, I think. This one, they did a nice little change where it's just not. It's Indy doesn't get the final fight with the big dude, which I thought was kind of a fun little like twist. But boy, was that ending unfulfilling. His ending to the point where I kept going, well, he's gonna pop up again. Right, like that's not the end of this giant dude, and then you just never see him again. I'm like, I guess that was the end of him. I won't like say specifically, but it's just like
I actually loved his demise, and I thought it was ghastly.
It was. They didn't stick with it.
It was
though,
ghastly. Yeah,
but they didn't stick with it like they did in the old films, which I'm like, I don't know if that's the bad thing. The other thing I'll say positive is that I was laughing because they on some Instagram post Lucasfilm had, they said, I think Mashable said, fun for the whole family, and I'm like, was it? Was it fun for the whole family? Because this film earned its PG-13 rating. There was a lot of gunplay, a lot of blood, a lot of violence, which is not a negative to me. Like, I'm glad they didn't like Disneyfy that. Indiana Jones films tend to be violent films, right? With people getting violently killed, and they did the same here. But Grant, I agree. I was a little like, every time one of the main baddies would die, I'd kind of be like, that's it.
Yeah, and they do there's a pretty great death when one of them getting, I guess, handcuffed underwater. That was a good one. I was like, okay, that makes sense. You almost wanted that for each of them, basically, as a send off, these guys got to go.
Yeah.
Another positive thing, I honestly think this is the only movie you could make with Harrison being the age he is.
I mean, that was the whole
1969, the moon landing. Like this time in history just made perfect sense to me. So I think Mangold just crushed it in terms of making Indy, an 80-year-old guy. Like that's just, it works. Like that's just that was a perfect place to set the movie. So I think that was incredibly smart, and I think that was a really cool time.
He was penned in. I mean, they decided it was going to be about Harrison Ford rather than Indiana Jones, and so it's like there's only Mangold was really like hemmed in with some rails there, and I thought. And he knew it. And, as we move on to this this interview that we're going to talk about, he said just that. And I think he kind of told the only story he could do. And that, and I mean, it was really, the artifact is about time. And the whole movie's about time. And, like he created this theme. And I thought he very deftly wove the theme into this, made like this romp. I mean, you guys said it was slow in parts, I guess at the beginning, but to me, it was just sort of like bang, bang, bang. And I mean, there were some I feel like there were like 12-minute action scenes in this movie. It was a long movie, and there was some long action scenes in them.
Mm-hmm.
There were some, to my opinion, slow action scenes.
Okay. You guys have much defter analysis of films than I do. I'm like, sweet, look at cars go fast.
I don't know, that tuk-tuk race could have been halved.
Yeah. But
oh yeah.
But okay, hey, it's Lucas. I'm sure was on the edge of his seat the whole time. He's like, yes, speed.
Yeah. Well, can I just say that when I say something is slow, that's not necessarily a negative in my book. Like
I think there's just a feeling of righteousness and a tenderness at the center of this movie that is kind of not in the other films. The Mangold's kind of hitting at a certain heart of the indie character that we don't normally see, and it's fun to finally dive into that. But again, I don't want to jump back to the third act. I think the third act could have done a little more to support those ideas as well, in that like meeting Archimedes, they're talking about a war throughout the film. Like Archimedes could have talked about, are we always going to be at war? Is there ever going to be a time of peace? Like there could have been an exchange about the human condition and war and fascism, and sort of talking about that sort of stuff with someone from the past. And that, something that plays too, I think what the film starts with is this sort of this Indy just taking down these Nazis who are just trying to take all their gold and riches from the war and somehow make it out, and keep scheming and plotting. And it's like, and then you have Voller and his whole narrowly dark, which I was like, this is probably the darkest character motivation I've ever witnessed. Another genius thing I think Mangold did was the darkest, I think, character motivation we've had in a villain in an indie movie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And strangely contemporary at the same time.
A lot of the Nazis want to control a device to win the war. This character wants to go
Refight
back
the war.
and basically restart the war. and like win it. Yeah, it's incredibly evil, man.
I will say, I felt like this. I could say that the last scene cheated because it made me cry, but I'll be honest.
Oh my god,
I was
weeping. This is why the movie works. I was like sobbing walking out of the theater.
I know.
Continue.
But I'll say I was actually crying in the scene before that. Okay. And the time travel part, like we're just spoiling everything, which is fine. The time travel part, I was just like, I kind of had a feeling going to this, seeing nothing other than calling it Dial of Destiny and a couple of the scenes. I'm like, time travel, because that's where you have to go with Indy, right? And like, I was a little worried that they were gonna he was gonna go back in time and save Mutt, and that he was gonna save all these people that died. So when I knew it was a time travel movie, I was sitting in the theater. I told Ben this too, going, that person died, doesn't matter, not gonna happen, because they're gonna do the time travel cheat. And at the end, they're like, no, they all really died. They're all real dead. But the scene where he wanted to stay I thought this movie mirrored the other 3 films. I guess it talked about the 4th one for a second by killing one of its main characters off screen. But it honored the first 3 films in a way that didn't feel super nod and wink to the camera, which I really appreciated. It felt very organic. The scene between Marion and Indy doing the same scene that they did in Raiders felt real to me. Those 2 people would use that. That was their connection. That would be a cute little thing. To tell me where it doesn't hurt, it hurts everywhere. That line was amazing because they're old and it really does hurt everywhere now. It was kind of beautiful. But the scene with Shaw and him wanting to stay echoed the final scene in The Last Crusade in a beautiful way. Right, of the let it go, let it go, Dad, let it go, in a way that I thought was really well done. It didn't feel like they didn't quote it, they didn't use the same lines, the dynamics were certainly changed. I started crying in that scene. It really got me, and I don't know why. And it was just something about his there's no use for me in this world anymore. Let me stay here, let me do this, and the other person begging and pleading. And I love the solution because it's such an Indiana Jones solution, which is just knock him out. It was such a great moment. I'm like, that's brilliant, because that's what Indy would have done in that situation eventually. If his dad didn't let go of that, he would have knocked him out and pulled him out. So anyway, I really like that. But I agree, every single, and this is funny, this is what Grant and I always do, every single critique you have, Grant, I 100% agree with. And I really enjoyed the film. It is well below the original 3 in a lot of ways, but the original 3 are kind of perfect films, and this is a film I will happily watch. And this to be the end cap of that series seemed perfectly done. It's great. When I do a rewatch, I'll be happy to have this be the end point of this series and not Crystal Skull. No offense to Crystal Skull.
Yeah. I think, I don't
know if they have to be this sullen, though. You know what I mean? Star Wars, another deflated franchise,
I guess it didn't.
Sags in the 3rd act, and has a legacy character, to sort of defeatist legacy character at the center. And I'm just I don't know if we have to do this. I think there's another way to do this. You could have had I don't know, a belt of power or something that gives you super strength, and have.
He had it. He was jumping between.
You know what I mean?
He was jumping between things and still knocking Nazis out. That's my biggest complaint. You have this 80-year-old doing acts that I, as a 43-year-old, would die if I tried one of them. But here's the thing I'll say. I didn't find it sullen. I weirdly, I found it more uplifting, and I don't know why. And I think part of it might have been that there's a scene where she does a quip. Yeah. And he goes, "My friend just died."
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is amazing, because that's what an 80-year-old is, right? Yeah. His friends are dying around him. I thought it really honored age in a way that felt good, right? And honest and believable for this character, because I always think back, to me, Indiana Jones is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a vastly different film than any other Indiana Jones film. It's dark and it's slow and it is not that quippy. People think it's funny. It is not. It is a serious fest with a couple of quips in it. Then you get to Temple of Doom and it's a dark fest with a lot of quips in it. And then you get to Raiders, or then you get to The Last Crusade, and that's just family fun time. Still love that movie, but it is, that to me feels like the most Disney. Well, no, I think Crystal Skull feels like the most Disney. But anyway, so this felt kind of weirdly it almost feels like an arc that happened in tone in these 5 films, and it kind of ended closer to where it started tonally.
Gotcha.
That's fascinating. You say that, because I walked to that theater just sobbing and just a absolute wreck. And just thinking to Marion and Indy just walking around, just talking about mutt on just like a spring walk. Like it just, there's a part of that. It's uplifting, but there's a part of that's just like, oh, this is just so sad. Like there's just such a sadness at
Life
the core.
is sad, man. Life is sad.
Well, on that
but
note,
they found each other.
Yeah, but these properties are escapist fun. But I don't know. I guess
I still had escape.
yeah, I would put this one right up with the other.
I did too. I'm
well.
not saying the movie's a total bummer. I'm saying the movie's great. I'm just saying
It is, but it is dour. There's a lot of dour moments in that film.
I don't think that like there's only one way to do it, which is to show the passage of time, honor age, do this uplifting, reconnection with Marion and Wombat. Like, I think there's another way to do it, which is like, do something subversive, give Indy super strength when he's an old man. Like even comic book movies don't do that. Even comic book things don't do that. Like whatever, like there's certain things you can do that I think are just funny and subversive and throw him into the mix and in the same way.
Taste. I guess what's interesting, you bring a point, Grant, is like you give him a taste of immortality or give him a taste of this super strength, and then he chooses to be an old man is a very powerful message, right? He chooses his life, right? Which in this case, and very similar to a lot of last films, he has very little choice, right? Like, which is interesting. It's interesting that he's always just thrown into this.
And I'm just throwing that idea out there. That's not even my favorite idea.
No, but I agree. Like, I want to say, like, I don't think this landed it perfectly. I think this achieved the goal that I wanted it to achieve, which was to be better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and to feel like connected to the universe in a way that Crystal Skull did not to me. It felt like part of the franchise. I did love how much it did live in the 60s, where I feel like Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls was like kind of 50s for like the first 15 minutes and then was just like, whatever for the rest of the film, and felt very
I rewatched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull recently, and the first 35 minutes of the film, pretty good. Like
very
honestly,
good. Very good.
Very good. Like
I was
probably
happy in the theater when that started.
Indiana Jones happening in the beginning of that film.
It tricks me every time I watch it, because every time I watch it, I'm like, is it a good movie?
Oh wow!
And then at about 45 minutes, I'm like,
so fast.
Yeah.
After they get into the jungles, it's just kind of
it's a wreck.
Yeah.
But hey, I got what I wanted. It was they traveled the globe in this film. Remember we were talking about that with Crystal Skull? Like this was hopping throughout
this one
locations, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, unless we want Grex to actually fire us, we should probably start dovetailing back into Star Wars.
Fine, you want to talk about Star Wars?
But I mean, I felt like I was watching Force Awakens at the end of this movie. Pretty much. There's a lot, and you're talking about like the dour old man. It's like, well, it's literally the same character as in Star Wars, so you're gonna get that tenor from Han Solo, aka Indiana Jones.
The difference is Harrison Ford was happy to be there for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but I thought he did a great job in both.
I agree.
But it was definitely a lot of the similar vibes going on there. And yes, there was that. It traveled a lot, which was pretty fantastic.
Did you hear what James Mangold said about him coming to set? What Harrison would say? I'll tell you guys after.
Tell me, yeah.
It's not fit for our audience.
Well, yeah, we might have a different audience soon, so
that may change.
I have a segue.
You got a segue? Let's segue away.
You looking for that? Well, with the premiere of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we got lots of new information about upcoming Star Wars films. Kathleen Kennedy has addressed that both the Dawn of the Jedi and the New Jedi Order films are linked in terms of theme and overlapping missions to begin a Jedi Order. That was announced. And we also know Mangold is embarking on this Dawn of the Jedi film, one of the two films mentioned. And what's interesting about that is that he talked about not wanting any connection, wanting to just have his own
not be in
place
the universe.
To play. No tie-ins, no curtain calls for characters we've seen before. He wants his own place to play. And fascinating that Kathleen Kennedy comes out and says, "Oh, actually, these films are linked. These films are actually linked." And we, I think a week ago, had spoken about how could they not be linked? They're basically setting out in the same mission.
Yeah, you mentioned that. But I really think that's going to be the only way they are linked. And this is me being hopeful. But it's just sort of like, you have one... on one side, Mangold's going to be creating the first Jedi Order, and very, very at the very, very, very beginning. So I think he said in that interview, you probably won't even hear the word Jedi, right? He's like, people don't generally brand first thing,
Right.
But then, and then you have Rey looking back at this entire wealth of history of 25,000 years history of the Jedi and getting to start anew. So it's like I think the only overlap may be like they run how they deal with the same problems and I'm hoping in different ways, because I don't want the new Rey's trilogy or movie or series of movies or whatever to just be making the same mistakes again, because I will absolutely just like jump off a Death Star.
Please.
Like I
know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know I could do that.
Yeah.
As Grant mentioned earlier,
You're talking like self-fulfilling prophecy mistakes?
No, I just don't want to see her make.
Because I feel like that might happen again.
I mean, obviously, it would be super boring if they were telling like essentially the same story with two different backgrounds. Yeah. I mean, as wild as that would be. So it's like I don't want her to be making all the same mistakes they made the first time they created the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
It's I want to see her zag when the first people zig, and she's got the texts that hopefully should inform her so that she doesn't make the same mistakes over again. And I think that juxtaposition will be really fun as they sort of vector off into different paths.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing about this too, because I heard that same thing by
Kathleen
Kennedy, and I was just like, I kind of figured. She's also really, she's doing her job. She's just really good at like saying things that are vague enough that could be interpreted in a multitude of ways. But like, I feel like if they're really going to link them, it's odd that as far as we know, the new Jedi Order movie is coming out first, and Mangold's film's coming out. We're guessing second now, based on like the way they've talked about it.
Actually, they look like looks like he's about 6 months apart. As far as, or actually, he's just about to start. He's starting to write 6 months after. So
right, which is weird because if you think we were going to link them, you'd want to link them forward facing, not backwards looking, right? Which means that you would have Mango's film go first, and then you would have whoever's rewriting the I guess it's Stephen Knight rewriting, or I guess rewriting the New Jedi Order would pull from that script, because based on everything Mangold said. And I would say based on what he did with Indy, he'll just be like, I'm going to take what I want and ignore the rest. So he might not pull back. So my thought is like, I don't know. Is she just talking about EU stuff again? Like, are the links going to be developed in books and comics and all the tie-in, stuff to kind of make those links a little more?
Well, you have to imagine that Rey is looking back on that first order, first Jedi Order.
But we don't know what that is because Mangold's going after.
Right.
But maybe this is more for the story group, and this is just internal sort of stuff where it's like, hey, what can we put in the sandbox for Mangold? Because it's not going to be free range. I kind of hope it is. I imagine it's going to be. He's already got the date is already not up to Mangold. 25,000 years was set by the story group. That was not Mangold who set that date. Therefore, these are the parameters that are being set. The table is being set by the story group, by the internal sort of narrative team, and I think what they're trying to do is figure out a compelling way for Rey to start a new Jedi Order, while also showing how the initial one had its troubles with the sort of moral spectrum of Force users, and then somehow creating a lot of space for Mangold to play with that in terms of like all these different sects and factions that spring out of, again, that first congregating of the Force of Force users, right? And I've dropped a theory here the other podcast, 2 podcasts ago, I think, where I was like, it would be so much fun if all that congregating of Force users resulted in basically the Sith, and the Jedi are an offshoot, a much smaller branch of that. Whereas we always think the Jedi are were the first major institution. It's like, and then there was that message. That message is there's more bad people than good people, which is a really dark message to send out there, but it immediately makes us appreciate the Jedi Order that fell after the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire. It immediately makes us respect those guys and think, hey, they have all this analysis paralysis, they have all this clouded thoughts and confusion because they're just so worried about dismantling this lawful good order they've somehow created, which was just painstaking. To me, it actually creates reverence for that order. When a lot of people I talk to just are like, how could Yoda just jump on this Clone War bandwagon? Like, how has no one heed Count Dooku's, comments about a Dark Lord. Why is nothing? Why are these Jedi so complacent? What if they're just deathly afraid of losing what they built?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's interesting to me. That would be lore saving in a lot of ways if they did that. Lore reinforcement. I know these big franchises try to do lore reinforcement constantly with everything they put out.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that'd be a theory I would love to see.
I want to
unfold.
Jump in on that, Grant, because I feel like it just makes weirdly the most logical sense, and also a bit of like tone poemy. If you have the Sith outnumbering,
Are you saying it rhymes?
yeah, like poetry, it outnumbering the Jedi, right? Because then your rebels are the Jedi, right? Your rebellion are the first Jedi Order rebelling against the Sith, and the other thing, the few, right? The few good, the few pure of heart. And I mean, I feel like part of what you get with that, which makes a lot of sense, if you have like, and Grant, you were getting at this, if you have the Jedi Order who have all these rules and structure and like tests and a way to basically all of that does is opt people out of the program. Yeah. Which, I mean, they're trying to find the best of the best. And then you have the Sith going, hey, do you have a lightsaber and like hate things? Cool, you're one of us. Yeah. Right? You're in. And so like everyone's easy to get in on the Sith. It is alluring, right? That's what they talk about all throughout all of the series, is how alluring the dark side is, right? It's attractive. It pulls people in.
It's the easy path.
It's the easy path, right? And so you have the Jedi who are just like, no, this is the right path, but boy, is it hard, and you may not get there. So like I love this idea of just like this, that where we get to is they realize, they think they're like, maybe the end of the first movie is like this group think they're on the right thing, and then it kind of blows out and you realize there's just this group of small people in this vast sea of just Sith, right? Or just dark side users. Sure. Yeah.
Or I mean, an arbiter who's arbiter of both sides. I could see that being a story device too. A group who harnesses both sides, one person who harnesses both sides being key to the plot as well. Yep. But yeah, I would love a small. I almost love the idea of the good few.
Yeah.
Because I think it saves the impression. It helps the impression that the Jedi give in the prequel films, and then the original, how they're talked about in the original trilogy. It's like that order actually, I think, it just, for me, it's a little bit of promotion for them, like just a little bit of good PR. I mean, it's just been so rough for them in the fan community for so long.
For the people who care like us, we're just sort of like
can't wait to point out the inadequacies of the Jedi and the failings of the Jedi, and I'm just like, okay, well, can we do something to restore them as like guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, like heroic figures? Is there any way we can do that? That would be great. Thank you.
Ben's annoyance every time he always says, "I'm like, I'm just sick of seeing Jedi take L's." Yeah, and like I love our collective friendship and learning from each other over the years, and how much it impacts each other's readings of things. Because every time I'm like reading something, I'm like, oh, the Jedi's taking another L. Yeah. And that's all you, Ben. Like I never thought that way until I met you, and now I'm like, oh man, why can't they just
Most
win?
fans are pretty snarky about being smarter than the Jedi and just pointing the noses down to the Jedi. It's like,
why are you watching Star Wars?
I think we just want like entertaining, compelling Jedi story. I don't know, like I'm not looking to like see them lose and fail and lose their masters and sulk and hide their identities and go into hiding. Like I just want to see them doing Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, it's my view is like I mean, as soon as the film or the production is made, it exists and that's the story. And I'm just like, hey, great job! You made a Star Wars and you got it to come to the big screen. You got to put it on Disney Plus, whatever, like what all they're doing. So it's like, it just exists. It is what it is. It's mythology and it's written. And how I deal with it personally is how I'm going to deal with something. And it's like, it stinks to watch your heroes or characters that you watch develop or read develop in like High Republic get smoked and just like, or get fooled, be deceived, be trapped, cut off from their loved ones, like just terrible things that happen in that series. Yeah. It's like really gut wrenching, but it is, I mean, that is storytelling. But I love what you two were saying. I did not expect you all to have ideas about what we'd get in the first movie, but you guys just blew me away with all that. But I love that.
You didn't?
No, but I love that. I mean, I think the key takeaway that I'm getting with my small mind is that it is harder to be good. it's always harder to be good, and that's
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's true. in a lot
Yeah,
of ways.
being good is
Yeah.
hard.
yeah.
man.
I mean, in like
Yeah.
a frequent thing they do now. It's like if you want to flesh out a Jedi, just start killing people. Like just prey on the weak. I just rewatched. It's called Twin Sons. It was season 3, episode 20, I think, of Rebels, and it's the final confrontation between Obi-Wan and Maul. And that's
Okay.
and that's what Maul does. Maul
Right.
calls to Ezra to bring him down here to flesh out Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan sees right through it at this point, which it makes so much sense. It actually is a perfect pairing to the Obi-Wan series. It's just sort of like you can everything he knows there, he learned a lot of in that series. Deborah Chow
Yeah.
did such a good
Which-
job with that.
I was actually thinking about Obi-Wan too, as we're talking about like Jedi and Jedi being good and doing their thing and getting a win. Like I started out very down on there ever being an Obi-Wan series. Why do we need this? Like, don't do it. Like nothing. And he doesn't leave world and I think I actually I'm saying all this. It is recorded for history.
Couple
I think when
times
we talked about it. I apologize. I was wrong. I admit my mistakes. That series I kind of is all the series that we've talked about, and I love Andor. Andor is like the perfect series, but like Obi-Wan might be my favorite series so far on Disney Plus, and I think part of it is like they found a way to give him a win,
Yeah.
right, and like a character win that also makes me understand how he became the weird space wizard we meet in episode 4, right?
Yeah.
Who just doesn't give an F about much of anything other than getting Luke, because like he knows, like he's like that. He's had that moment of being like, well, you're dead now. Like
Yeah.
you're lost to me, Darth. Like there's no saving you now. Like I don't know. Like that film, I mean, that show threaded that needle in a way, and also gave us a Jedi being a Jedi. Like that show ends with like, this is the truest Jedi.
Yeah.
Is
And a
Obi-Wan.
lot of it is
Yeah.
his resignation to being like, I can't force Luke to be the chosen one. And like he's just got to come to it on his own. And they really that realization juxtaposed with the Rebels episode, like they showed the last scene.
Yeah.
He's looking critically at Luke, just like playing around on the homestead at night. Meanwhile, Ezra Bridger, who's the exact same age as Luke, is out here fighting the rebellion with a lightsaber and like making mistakes, but he's in the thick of it, and he's
in the
in the war,
Yeah.
and he's and Obi-Wan's just like, you don't need me, you have everything you need, your people need you need to go back, but then he's already seen Leia has proclivities for like becoming an adventurer and a savior, and here's dumb Luke just still like playing with toys on a farm. And he's just like, and he's just like looking at him.
Yeah.
He's looking at him, and he's just like, he doesn't say anything. But even animated Obi-Wan, I think he's just sort of like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I doing this right? He's like, gosh, I hope this is worth it, because I really could be out there doing some real good. And it's like, but Qui-Gon, this is it.
Yep.
This is what the oath I took.
That's the Qui-Gon.
And-
Trust in the
and
Force.
trust in the Force.
Yeah.
And it, hey, it worked out. But yeah, anyways, diverted down that sector. But I love your ideas for this.
No, they're talking about the heroism
Yeah.
though, and like and
Hard
The
to be
discipline,
good.
yes.
the optics of
Yeah.
the heroism, and is it commendable, and do we notice the heroism
Right.
of the Jedi? Like, is what they're doing substantial? Is it just a bunch of CG assets flying around behind them, and then the sort of clone army fighting, and that's their heroism? Or are they like, are there big sweeping moments where they're like, pulling a lightsaber and stopping a threat like right before it happens? Like these kind of moments that I think we're all just craving to see, these big heroic moments where they're not in the middle of a war. It's more intimate, like, again, I'm excited that Mangold is doing this film, because Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny felt more intimate than the other other indie films.
And you think about,
like you said, the shots are framed a little tighter.
Yeah.
There's just new camera work and design. It's not so focused on establishing shots, wides, trick shots, things that Spielberg loves to do. It was very focused on character, and so it's going to be exciting to see him jump into this story. And I got one more pitch for you, Ben. What about a love triangle in
haven't we
Star
seen
Wars?
that already?
Like among Jedi.
Oh, among Jedi. I mean, also haven't we
Among
seen it
Jedi. I mean, like
in books?
we got a
We've
dyad.
seen it.
What
Well,
about
we've seen it in book
triangles?
form, but in movie form.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Elzar
We got it in the High Republic.
Oh yeah, I definitely that's a great one. I think that's a fantastic triangle. I do think that triangle wasn't was basically all the same flavor. Like they're all Jedi. I was like, what if the triangle I'm talking about is Dawn of the Jedi era, and they're
On the
not
same
all
sides.
they're Force users.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But they're not all of the same schooling.
Do you want to hear a pitch that I kind of don't want to see, but I wonder if they're gonna do?
Sure, go for it.
We have to get to no attachment somehow.
That's what I was just thinking.
Boy,
Here we go.
Do I ever get through an episode with talking about the no attachment thing? Maybe that's what we see. Maybe that's the connection Kathleen's talking about.
That's the triangle I'm talking about. The triangle is one person has toxic love, one person has real love.
That leads to no attachment, right? That leads to the no attachment rule, which is like maybe you justify it then, because maybe that's the key that draws these two films together, because Rey is also struggling with the no attachment rules. Maybe not like don't make it a love triangle, don't make it that exact, but she's kind of grappling a little bit with that no attachment.
Well, now you have that. Well, there's a likelihood to that, Adam, because we're not getting old Rey anymore. Lindelof has left the ship.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because I don't think
he wanted to do
Helen
old
Mirren
Rey
right away. With
Yeah.
an actress in her prime. There's no reason really to do that yet, or and it's a recast if anything.
Also, again, I just don't want to. I think I said the last time you told me about this. I've suppressed that memory, by the way. But thanks for bringing it back up again.
That was the idea.
I think
right?
it's just been done. It's like I don't want another fast forward and then backfill, fast forward and backfill.
Old.
Like I don't. I mean, I want to see her. Like, all right, what happens next? And I mean, maybe my favorite part of the script that wasn't by Trevorrow, is it ends with Rey at the beginnings of her new school, and like that got me really excited, and I really want to see it, and I don't want to see it in my lifetime. Like I don't want to like do the old one and then wait 20 years for them to decide to backfill it with a comic book series or something.
Well, and then you're backfilling it knowing where it ends, so you know where it has to go. Which I'm like, no, I agree.
Let's
like
burgeon forth into the unknown.
But I just don't understand it. But what's scary about that prospect to me, though, is that is that just an X-Men film at that point, and is it just a group of Jedi that culminate at the end, fight a threat, and that's like. That's the structure of it, because you're kind of doing a school at that point. You're introducing new students. Like, what is the design of that film? Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like that's a series. Like, I would just way rather see that as a series, just because. I don't know. I guess that's just. I guess it could be really fun though. Now that I'm saying that sounds amazing.
No, but
why can't we get a little X-Men in it?
Jedi, you got.
Like, why not, right? Like, there's room for it if we're gonna try to do different stuff. But Grant, the second you said X-Men film, and I mean, we've talked about it, like X-Men is like my comic series of all time. Yeah. But I was also just like, the second you said that, I did like I almost felt myself like cringe when you're just like X-Men in Star Wars, which we get a lot in the books, right? All the books, all the old EU books with the new Jedi. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe.
And the High Republic does.
I don't know.
Right, too. It's like there's a new Padawan, I think, featured in almost every book.
Yeah, right. With a new skill. Yeah.
Which is cool. I could do 3 Padawans in 3 movies or something, like 3 students, like 1 student in a movie instead of like, because then it gets into X-Men. Yeah. It gets into super.
Well, now I'm nervous.
Ensemble.
I will say the one of the things I've learned from doing this pod as we close in on 300 podcasts together. Is that, as brilliant as you both are, and you've forgotten more about film than I'll ever know. It's just like,
we're consistently
there's
wrong.
always,
still learning
there's
every
always
day.
a blind spot. And I mean, I would love to be in a room and make a Star Wars together and see what we come up with, because I love your ideas. But there's always an angle we haven't seen, and it's their job. And so I think, yes, on its face, there's a lot of pitfalls. There's always a lot of pitfalls if you're like, okay, it's going to be an ensemble cast and there's only so many ways you can go and we're going forward and they have new skills. But it's like, there's always a way. There's like always a way to make it a Star Wars, to tell a new story, to innovate. And it's like, they have all the resources in the world, the best writers, the best teams, the best crew. They'll figure it out. Like if anyone can figure out, they can. We've got our best people on it. It's, this established thing. It's going to be some risk, They've taken risks before and failed,
and how much of the Jedi process do you show? Like, is it more alluring to show a set piece moment wherein a threat erupts in some crowded marketplace, and then a Jedi mysteriously arrives? Is that more interesting than showing Rey's process of like
All right, now,
communication
everyone
officers,
lift the rocks.
finding threats, like sending Jedi in. Like it's almost like I don't want too much of an inside look either. I think the Jedi work better as a mystery in a lot of ways as well. So like there's a lot of concerns and pitfalls, but again, so excited that they're doing this. Like we're actually getting a Jedi Order, like the startings of a Jedi Order.
I will say,
are we going to do Master Apprentice again? Is it going to be Master Padawan? Like, is that
maybe
still
that's
going
all
to
it
be
is, right?
maybe they do keep that. I'm not really gonna.
That's how you escape the X-Men ensembles.
Rey and Broom Boy.
Well, I think Rey's gonna have her own thing.
We joke about Broom Boy, but it's a good enough
gonna
ending
be
to
there.
A film that he should most definitely.
If he's not there, I'm quitting Star Wars.
Like, it's
not really.
Like I have my problems with the film. It's a great film. I would just say that the sequels altogether kind of like was a train that went off a track, and I don't think you can just say the last film's what did it. I think that's all I can say about all three of the films. But that ending was good enough that I was like, this is a good character. Yeah. Like this character should come back.
And maybe he's
like,
good with animals. Like I don't know. It could be something in there. They could just be like, oh, where'd you come from? It's like, oh, I came from Canto Bight. It was like not a pretty scene, and then like that'd be enough. People would put it 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, you don't need to.
You don't need much.
Like do too much. Or here's the thing. What's the name? All my Harry Potter people out there. What's the name of the groundskeepers that I know? Well, let's not. I mean, no, please don't. No, don't give her any money. If you want to read Harry Potter, you get for free from your library, and she sees $0 of those dollars. Please get your books from the libraries or buy them in used bookshops. Anyway, but Filch, I think, is like the groundskeeper who is.
I'm guilty.
I'm gonna read them to my kid, and she will see $0 of my dollars when I do. But I think Filch is like the groundskeeper who is a Muggle, and so you do the same thing. He's the groundskeeper of the new Jedi Order, and he only has enough Force connection to move a broom, and that's all he is. He can't actually be a Jedi.
That's the stuff you can do. The guy that like I'm not really gonna sleep well until I see it announced is John Boyega. I agree. He's necessary.
Has to be in it.
Because I want Rey to.
Hopefully he's involved in the writing.
Yes, he should. I want producer credit for him for sure. I was gonna say Daisy, but I don't even know if she has designs on that. But I'd be happy.
She'll get it because that's the way Hollywood works now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like after hearing. I mean, but Boyega like is about that life, so it's like okay. And after hearing, I just watched Actors on Actors with Diego Luna and Hayden Christensen, and it was really good. I finally got a chance to watch that. I saw it pop up, and it played out about how I thought it would. But like Diego Luna was a producer on Andor, and he gave a little insight as to like what his day-to-day is, and he's like just like being able to be in the room when we're making decisions early, was a lot.
That's huge.
And like that's where like Boyega needs to be. But because my headcanon for this story is that like Heavy weighs the crown for Empress Rey. And I mean, I know she's not really going to be an empress, but like maybe she is. I don't know. But like she's trying to dictate the next. She's trying to find out what comes next for the Jedi. But like Boyega's boots on the ground with the school,
day-to-day operations.
Like he's really running it, and it's kind of his thing. And I mean, it's going to be great because there'll be all these pitfalls.
Maybe you hit it. I think you hit it, man.
Yeah.
What if John Boyega is just Kyle Katarn?
Yeah.
Like what if you just
basically
like
lightsaber blaster out in the world,
and you're just like this kind of character role at this point, kind of the guy who knows the Academy, hung out with Rey, but now is actually fighting whatever Sith encounter is now back in the galaxy instead of Rey. It's sort of he's the swashbuckling Jedi rogue character,
What if your conflict is between Rey and Finn, and not heavy conflict, but emotional conflict, that Rey is running the school, and so it's a little more of the book learning, right? And and Rey is taking Jedi troops out or Jedi forces out to kind of do the Jedi missions. And so you have a bit of the academic versus the real world between the two of those characters.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Right? Like maybe they're butting
heads.
You
said Rey for both of those things, but I think you meant Rey is book learning, and Finn is taking people on the ground.
Ray. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I am
No,
2.5
that makes perfect sense.
Manhattan's in, so
Very little sleep.
I love it. The Jawa juice is flowing. It's always
That's
good.
rad.
Um,
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, I would
I
love
could
that.
talk about that stuff forever. Some more Mangold stuff. I had took a bunch of notes when I listened to that.
Sweet.
But
do it.
yeah, so first is like we've talked about it a little bit, like, but there's a little bit of hypocrisy with him where he's like, I have no interest in making a movie that's part of a universe, and yet he's made the most iconic like films for like Logan is like maybe the greatest X-Men movie, and like.
It's almost a template for a Star Wars
Yeah.
movie. I think I tweeted.
I know.
His
Yeah.
favorite Star Wars
He
movie, like
only
Master
knows how
of
to make
Practice.
one movie. It just seems to work in every single franchise.
And granted, he like had a lot of room to roam there, but Logan makes me very. I mean, God, the last scene.
But Logan popped off. Logan popped off before Mando and these other like Lone Wolf and Cub sort of ideas,
Yeah.
right? Logan kind of popped
Yeah.
off at a good time.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah.
like it crushed in that.
Yeah.
And it was such an
like-
outlier, and it was just fantastic, and like
Everyone's good in that
Yeah.
movie. Like that's rare.
Everyone
Everyone
is
is good in
good.
the movie.
yes,
Everyone. And then for some reason, Hugh Jackman decided to keep playing that character where I'm like, stop
that
it.
was it.
Like that was it. Why would you play it again? That was the perfect ending. And then you show up in 3 other movies
yeah.
after
There's
that.
actually
And
they
now
talked
another
to
one.
him about that. The interviewer talked to Mangold about that,
Yeah.
and he was just sort of like, oh, it's great, whatever, whatever. What he's gonna say.
Diplomatic.
But yeah, I mean, if anything shows that he's capable of this, so it's like he played within the guidelines of X-Men and made an amazing outlier X-Men movie, and that's like exactly what he's being tasked to do here.
This is like a franchise closer.
Yeah, I know, but now he's going to be a franchise
Now
opener.
that I think
Oh,
about it.
weird.
Yeah.
No, you're right. He totally is. I didn't even put that together, but he absolutely is. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
This may be
I
the
thought
last.
like your
this may be the
franchise
last
would
Star
be
Wars
there.
movie.
yeah.
JJ's your franchise starter.
Yeah, it's your franchise starter, but it's
Yeah.
like kind of I mean, that's great.
Just pictures. Think about it as
I mean, that's what.
Do you know what JJ is? I'm going to say it, and we're going to talk about it now. JJ is a
We're
franchise
fine.
starter and then a franchise killer, and then having to reinvent the franchise because he did it to Star Trek. Because he the first one's fine, the second one's garbage, the third one's whatever, and then they can't keep doing those, so they decided to reinvent it on television. Hey guys, does that sound familiar?
Nope.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay,
Brutal.
so he.
I am
JJ.
sorry, Greg.
I love
Please don't
JJ.
fire
Yeah.
me. I think I'm fine.
So
Oh yeah, Greg's gonna have words.
man,
about
I've got
about
6
about
text
us for
messages from him right now, and they're all caps for some reason. He's definitely
Yeah,
an
I'm
all
sure that's
caps
good. He
texter.
just
that. A lot of
There was
glup
an
shittos just
accidentally
came down
accidentally
the
hit
line.
the double tap on the
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's probably
fine.
fine.
It's
Yeah.
all good.
Anyways, he also talked about writing Boba Fett. And
yeah.
and so
Yes.
like because he was gonna he had a script for the movie in the works, and he wanted it to be an R-rated spaghetti western on one planet.
Oh, that would have sucked.
And yeah, I mean, I know, and he said he was just listening to Ennio Morricone while he was typing it, like the
Yeah.
Spaghetti Western King soundtrack dude, and he was just
The
like
vibe
happily
was right.
typing away, just like getting into it. And he said that like he's like, if I did that, no one would look at Grogu the same, like because it's gonna be gnarly. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say sigh. We don't need to relitigate Book of Boba Fett,
No.
but
What's Mangold's
It's-
Western? Did he
it's
do 310 to Yuma?
he did 310 to
310
Yuma.
to Yuma. He
Yeah, he did.
he did a remake of a western and found a way to make it again much better than the original, which is a rare thing to do, right? Is to remake a film and make the second. Like his remake of 310 to Yuma is.
It's great.
I mean, I didn't know who James Mangold was, and I was watching it, sitting at my video store watching it, and I'm
Who the
like,
heck?
what is this film? This is amazing. Like you have revitalized the western, and no one cares. No one cares that the western's
Yeah,
back.
I've got to watch that
and he
movie
did it.
again. I loved it.
Really good.
Yeah, I would trust him with a Boba Fett spaghetti western.
I mean,
With more
we also
Basque music.
you can flash back to our live coverage of Solo because they announced that the morning Solo was out. It was soft announced that James Mangold was doing the Boba Fett movie. I have sense memories of the three of us and our significant others meeting at Assembly Row, excitedly talking about James Mangold doing that before we went in to go see Solo.
Yeah, he did. He admitted Solo killed his opportunity, which is sad. But
Yeah, it killed a lot of opportunities, which is a bummer for
sad.
everyone else and Solo because it doesn't deserve it.
Solo was great.
Solo was great.
Really,
Yeah.
you missed out if you didn't go see Solo in
So-
theaters because I think
It's
Super
so good.
Verminoth and
It's-
the mall,
yeah.
like, that stuff was awesome.
Oh,
It's also the budget's fault, not the movie's fault. If it didn't cost 2 movies to make
Yeah.
1 movie, it would have been considered a success, just like the Indiana Jones film that just came out that's dying in the theater, but it would have been fine, but they had to remake it or redo it.
Right.
Anyway,
I have a
whatever.
pretty hot
moving on.
take about Boba Fett, though.
all right.
I don't
Please
think
do.
It's
so
better
far,
be
I don't
hot.
think he's entirely a Western. This is quick. I don't think he's entirely a Western genre character. I would almost give
No.
him to like Bong Joon-ho and do something on like a
Ooh.
tropical prison planet or like a gladiatorial sort of ring, and
Yes.
it's like Old Boy. Like I would do
Yes.
something where it's
Oh
like
boy, do
just
it.
constant action and like, but like there's real stakes, and he's after some gutter punk kid who he likes or something. I don't, something that's just fun. You know what I mean? Like, and then like,
Yeah.
it's almost the person I'd give
I-
it to. You know?
Yeah.
Here's what you should do with Boba Fett. All of that. What you should do is a series of films where he jumps into different genre of action films and he conquers them all because he's Boba Fett.
at the end.
So because he's in a Western, and then he's in the 80s action movie.
That's called
and then he's
printing money,
like,
Adam.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know why.
right. Like
I know.
he conquers all genres.
It's like the series we got sort of got him out of the Sarlacc pit and into a place of stability. But and I mean, there's a part of me that would love to be like he starts regressing into his old ways to solve new problems that are old problems, and then we can get the gritty Boba Fett, the like no nonsense Boba Fett again. But I don't know. It's like they turned him into this warm, fuzzy, like old person that's just like no, I just want to be a daimyo of a small town, and that's it. And then like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think we're ever gonna get another Boba Fett, honestly. Like I don't know.
No, he's going to be in the movie, and maybe he'll pop up in some of the series, and that's kind of it.
It's kind of because like
Yeah.
he was really promising in Mandalorian when he showed up. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the guy. That's the guy. But and I mean, and when you rewatch the series, it is pretty gritty, and there are definitely like Boba Fett hallmarks there. But
Sure.
I guess it was just like seeing his face too much. It was like, no. I got to see. I wanted him a little more lethal.
Espa.
Yeah.
I'm still thrown off by that. I was reading an issue of I swear we'll talk about the comics again at some point, but I was reading an issue of Bounty Hunters. He shows up, Boba Fett shows up in it, and it's like helmet gets knocked off. And he's without his helmet for like 3
wow.
pages. And it still weirds me out to see Boba Fett's face. Even though I know what it looks like, I'm like, this is weird why we show oh, that's right, because all we do now is show Boba Fett's face.
All right. Another little tidbits here. So yes, he mentioned. Oh, he called the story group the Star Wars clerics, which I thought was like a nice. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because I imagine the story group wearing robes all the time in California.
Yep.
Behind.
Yeah, carrying life orbs or
Light orbs
yeah.
or whatever, or maybe
Yeah.
canes or something. In like candlelit rooms. I hope that's the case. So blah blah blah. Feeling of space is important to tell a story without being encumbered by the bases you need to hit. Was sort of just like just let me tell a story. So he's got that. And he also mentioned that he hasn't talked to George Lucas about Dawn of the Jedi yet. He's waiting to sort of have a thing before he talks to him. But and then there was one quote that he pulled that I really like. It was every good idea skates towards a precipice of something completely awful, and every safe idea never gets close to that edge. Meaning, like he's like when regarding George, he's like, no, I want it to be complete before it comes because like he wants to ride that edge, he wants to push that edge, and it's like, and he's right. I feel completely this way about creativity and creating things. It's like. If you really want to burgeon forth and like cover new ground, it's a razor's edge between something terrible and something perfect.
Yeah, which I can see in Indiana Jones, right? Because like just to bring it back around a second, like the fact that second we figured out that he was going to meet Archimedes, I was just like, well, this is dumb.
Yeah.
I was in the theater going like, oh, what are we doing? And then he found a way to actually kind of sort of make it work.
Archimedes was obsessed with water displacement.
Yeah. What?
Sure. The great.
Push
Thanks,
the
Indy.
things into the pool. I
Yeah.
was just like, is this what the puzzles have become at this point?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the last one was like X marks the spot.
Yeah.
So hey, we got a little more than that. But I'm like, but
yeah, sure. You're really. It's the '80s, Adam. I mean, I'm not
I
too hard
know.
on this film.
but no, but it's like, I mean, you go back to Raiders, just like take one back because of this, and then like break the staff of Raw. Like that was amazing. Like that was real,
So good.
something or other. But yeah, it's so good. But there was anything even close to that in this film. But to bring it back to Ben's point of just like this idea of like I'm sure when he's writing the script, and he's like he's going to be Archimedes. Like that is a razor edge of killing that movie, right? Like that should not work on paper, but I actually thought it worked pretty well in a way that I was just like,
great.
oh man, I was watching the film like, oh, you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, won me back. I was like angry at the film for winning me back at that point because I'm like, he's seeing history, and I'm like, yes, the last thing Indiana Jones should do is actually see history. And I'm like, fine, you win, James.
Yeah. For me, the razor's edge or coming to the edge of creativity and taking a gamble was the de-age scene and how long the de-age scene lasted.
Long,
Yeah.
so long.
Which
movie
was
was
a
long.
good choice in my opinion because it was story driven and
Yep.
it was, for me, I think it's a really bad look when you create a de-aged moment that's sort of like single serving, maybe single serving to the MacGuffin, single serving to one character. It was so refreshing to see a de-aged scene in which the character keeps going.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
you're like,
I mean,
is this
it
over
goes
yet?
so
No,
long.
he's still running down
I
the
know.
train. He's still
Yeah,
fighting
yeah.
people. This is awesome.
It goes long enough that they're able to introduce and dismiss a false MacGuffin.
Yeah. Right.
That's how long that scene is.
Oh, Lance
It's
of
amazing.
Longinus, fake.
I know.
Fake.
Yeah.
And he sees it for a second. He's like, fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Fake.
tying that back to Star Wars for a second, I mean, that's a really great sign from Lucasfilm. One of the things Mangold said was, he's like, the first time Kathleen came to me, they were like, yeah, so we want you to do this. He's like, okay. She's like, we need it in a month. And he was like, absolutely not. He was like, I need a year. And he's like, I need a year to start, like to do this. And they like left him alone, and he was like, well, I figured that was it. And he's like, I don't know if they called every other director in Hollywood or what, but they came back to me and were like, okay, we're gonna do this. And he gave her his idea. But like, A, the fact that they gave him as much time as he needed, and B, that he made as long a movie as he needed to make, is both very encouraging signs to me.
That he felt comfortable pushing back.
Yeah.
Right.
And she
saying,
listened to him.
No, like that's that's a good beginning of a relationship.
That's what I wonder, like with JJ,
Yeah.
is he just such a company man that he's like, okay, you need this in 2 years and it needs to be an hour and, no more than 2 hours long. Like, okay.
Well, he runs a production company, so I imagine he has a slate of shows and things that he's always trying to hit.
Right. So
too,
he's
and
like,
it's-
okay, I'll just make it work.
That's
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
he
it's a combination. I think
redefined,
he's like,
how you cut movies to make that movie happen. But it was like,
Yeah.
did we really need to put that much pressure on the guy? Okay.
Well, he
No,
did bring
here's
it
the thing.
to in-house too. He would he shot scenes for The Force Awakens at his own studios as Bad Robot
yeah.
production.
Yeah.
Sort of like
Yeah.
did
And he
his own doctoring of film on his own grounds in his own
Yeah.
domain. It's kind of cool.
And he kinda
So
wrestled
I think he was
that-
fine with the allotment, the parameters. I think he was fine with.
And his shooting on that first movie, in Force Awakens, he was able to wrestle it back from disaster, right? With like Harrison Ford getting injured and having to like stop production for a while, and still deliver like a great movie and like rewrite everything, and it worked out really well. So what I'll say about like the last movie is I think he's not necessarily a company man. I think you guys hit it. He owns his own company, so he understands the reality of the business, and I think he also has the ego to say I can do it. Which can get a lot of things done well and can also get you into trouble.
It's a triangle. You can get it done quickly, you can get it done cheaply, or you can get it done quickly. What's the other one? Or well. Thank you. Yeah, and it's like pick two, right? But he was like he did all three, and it's like yay, okay.
You did like 2.5 out of 3, I'd say. But
Yeah.
You can figure out what half I'm talking about.
Satisfactory / deeply entertaining and compelling. Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's like
I
it could
keep
have
going
been
hard
better,
on JJ.
and it just
It could have been better.
If I feel like given more rain, I would have liked to see what he would have done.
I still want to see that 3-hour cut,
Yeah.
man. I feel like that would do a lot of the work for me. Yeah.
Speaking of which, there's a NC-17 rating cut of Mrs. Doubtfire out there somewhere. So that
Wait,
yeah.
what
Whoa.
was that in
Okay.
the? Wait, what did I miss?
I don't know if I needed to know
Yeah,
that.
I just decided to throw that in there. That was a little factoid. That's Ben's factoid corner from this week.
Wait, like so they went from PG.
There's
because now we're
a
talking
PG,
about this for the next half
there's
an hour.
R, and then there's an NC-17 based on, I think it was the material that Robin Williams was putting
based
out there.
on that. That makes sense.
Right, 'cause
Based
he
on
can scale
his
up.
ad libbing. He could very much scale
Yeah.
up. So probably based simply on the word pictures he was
Yes,
painting
in-
in some of the
indeed.
scenes. All right, that makes a little more sense because I'm like, what did they do between what were Robin Williams and Sally Field doing on camera?
We were
Yikes.
wildly off
Yeah.
topic.
All right, bring it back to Star Wars.
I love it. Though.
I
That's never gonna happen again.
I watched Rogue One last night. It was awesome.
So good.
And then I
awesome.
started watching A New Hope. I think because I watched that interview with
How do you
with
not?
Hayden and Diego, and they were just like obviously just like tossing flowers back and forth at each other. But it was just like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean Hayden, he did not regrets. He said all the right things and was just like very sweet and amenable of all that stuff. But it's like, you know, Diego talking about like the story process with Tony and like how the depth of the characters and how he's, you know, and Hayden's like, that must have been nice.
Yeah.
That must have been really great for you.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the original, right? Hayden Christensen was like this 19-year-old
He was
kid
19,
spit up
dude.
and yeah, like he had no hope to do it.
He had
you
been
know,
in a
like,
high school play before that.
I know.
High school
Poor kid.
plays, like that was his whole thing, and it's like he
Yeah.
did great with what he had.
He did great. He did great as directed
Yeah.
as well. Like he has the acting chops. We've seen it in other
Yeah.
movies. We've seen other things. He may have not been directed by an actor's director.
Yeah, I just wish the best for that dude, and I hope he's great because he.
The poor guy.
I'll always, you know, I'll always love Attack of the Clones, and yeah, we'll always have that together.
Well, the problem
Same.
with Anakin Skywalker is like a seedy Superman.
Yeah.
So like you're just
Yeah.
like that's a tough character no matter what the handling is, and it's like
It's tough.
it's
I
almost a
just-
character no one wants to see either, and
Yeah.
so it's
Right.
like
I just don't
like it's almost like
make him-
but you wouldn't make that today. You would not do that
No,
film.
but the thing is,
So
they
it's-
should have made him more unlikable from the jump.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like
Yeah.
just lean into being unlikable, but still, like you can understand how he and Obi-Wan had a friendship, but like make him unlikable everywhere else.
I think that's
right?
what the Clone
Like,
Wars animated series did well. It was sort of like showed.
Yes, that's a good
yeah,
point.
like he's a
Right.
very flawed
Yeah.
dude in that, and he's like
Toxic.
kind of a jerk, cocky.
Toxic bro.
Toxic
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
And I mean, we get that in Revenge of the Sith a bit, but it's sort of like, yeah, you know. Anyways, but yeah, and we got him in Obi-Wan too, which was good, and he was a fantastic actor in that.
He was really good in
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, which again proves that as well directed, and also he's matured.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he can do it.
Word. Anything else y'all want to talk about this week?
I think we covered it.
I don't
I'm
know.
excited for
I thought I had
Megan's
something,
movie.
and then
Yeah.
same. I thought I had something, and then Mrs. Doubtfire kind of.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just felt
No,
like a non
I love it.
sequitur.
It's great, but I'm like, I how do you follow that?
Clear the board. Yeah.
I
amazing.
will.
No, not much else. I'm just it's interesting that he wants to do something that doesn't serve a larger universe or the franchise as a whole. He wants to sort of tell his story to the side. And we're getting Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon coming out shortly, and he's talking about how he wanted to do the very same thing when he approached Disney in 2014, 15, when they got the rights and pitched his film. And he said, I just want to do my own thing on the side, not connected to any of the characters in the lore so far. And now his movies are coming out, and it's going to be a two-parter. I'm not overly
It's gonna be a
excited for them.
two-parter?
I'm just
Okay.
a two-parter, yeah,
Like
apparently.
6
and,
months apart or something like that.
it's just exciting to see the sort of like indie sci-fi or this sort of like independent sci-fi idea versus Mangled now able to tell this story in the Star Wars galaxy with new characters, not beholden to what we've seen before. It's going to be exciting. I think we're in a new frontier of science fiction storytelling and basic fantasy storytelling storytelling. So I'm just excited about this kind of new horizon that we're entering. So very cool. And I think our podcast's entering a new horizon too. So
yeah, I figured this is time to mention it. We've been teasing about how Grex is going to fire us. That's definitely happening. Actually, it's not.
Yeah, we probably got like, I don't know, 2 episodes left in front of us before we get
so-
fired. Just guessing.
yeah, I'm actually I'm supposedly fired as of right minute, so I'll be clearing my desk just that.
Yeah, actually, one of those texts just says you're fired, but like
Holodex.
29 times. It's like a wallpaper that I'm probably going to put on the back of my phone. But it's we are still going to be a podcast, but we have been kicked off our transmission news space station here. So we're just going to go to different bars around the galaxy and have a little more adult, a little more casual conversation. We'll still cover stuff as it comes out and cover all the things. We're going to be the completionists we always have been. But it's going to give us a little more room to mess around with some different ideas. It's a little bit of a misnomer because we are the worst news hosts probably in the galaxy because we don't really cover the news. We just talk about Star Wars in a very general way.
Hence why we're fired.
Hence the firedness. But it's just going to, I think, open up some new fun things for us. We might start our counter over again. But so if you see Star Wars Cantina Chronicles on your logo instead of Core World News in a couple weeks, you will know why. That's
don't fret. Still us.
We'll just be Cantina Chronicles.
Yeah.
We'll try to do a new event. I think we're going to have more guests, whether accredited or not, to get people. Pretty much anyone we can pull over on a bar stool next to us to talk about Star Wars. I think would be kind of fun. We've got a bunch of good ideas going there, so. It's good. We're excited about it. It's going to be a blast.
It's finally time to see the galaxy.
Indeed.
That's right. Let's get out.
We got to leave.
One bar stool at a time.
Been in the core world for too long.
Get out of the cubicle. Go see what's going on.
Actually, and Adam and I are going to be drinking at Oga's Cantina next Wednesday. So, if you're in Oga's if you happen to be at Batu next Wednesday, I think it's the
Keep an eye
13th or something, the 12th, whatever.
12th, I think.
We'll be there. Come have a beer with us or blue milk or something.
Possible live announcement. At
Possibly, yeah.
Ben stands on a bar stool. Shouts at.
Yeah, I will.
Immediately
I'm sure.
gets escorted out of.
I know. I'm trying to figure out how to get in there with recording equipment. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, keep an eye on socials. I'm sure we'll drop at least some bad iPhone videos or something on.
With great audio.
With great audio, with amazing audio and subpar picture.
Yeah, we'll try to do it. It should be fun. So we'll do that. But anyways, fun things on the horizon. Star Wars, always. There's always such great stuff. I still feel like I don't have my head around everything. Isn't there a book I should be reading? Something? There must be a book out somewhere, right?
Weirdly,
there's a new Legends. Did you see the new Legends collection? Released a Dawn of the Jedi, a book entitled Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's from the Legends books. Adam, you must have read it in your rereads from over the past 8 years.
God, but it's like 20 years took him to do that, I think.
But it just dropped on Audible. I just downloaded it and was listening to the first couple chapters today. I am digging into it now. Yeah, that's it.
The void.
So maybe that's something to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm
just digging into it.
I know I've read everything. This does not sound familiar, but again, it would have been like way back when. Yeah. So, no, we'll definitely. It's short. It's a short read. Try to see what the original. I was just trying to see what the original date was.
Levin?
Tim Levin. I'm not familiar with him, though I know I must have read this. Anyway, we will definitely 2013.
Just interesting that same title as the film we are talking about.
Do you
theoretical
want to hear something fascinating? Sure. I may have never read this book.
Oh, well, wouldn't that be a nice
on your? Because I may have been past the timeline.
Oh, when it came out.
When this came out, because this is during the Dark Era, so we might have to read Dawn of the Jedi and talk about Dawn of the Jedi by 10, 11.
I wouldn't hate that. And I'd love to do Heir to the Empire, too. I don't feel like we're short on material. I haven't looked at our content matrix in a while.
I think Heir to the Empire we start to do before Ahsoka, if we can just crunch.
Do you want to do the whole trilogy? I have them all on audiobook.
Yeah, I think we do the whole trilogy. I'll do audio. I'll crunch the audiobook because you can get them on the library. You can get them; they'll be available, or I'll just pay for them. I keep forgetting to cancel my Audible.
Yeah, I got them all for free from Audible because I keep paying for Audible.
Yeah, free.
Yeah.
But I'll do the same. I think we've talked about it. I think it's a good summer project. Let's try to do that before Ahsoka starts. We do have I think we have plenty of comics always. I gotta update the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a spreadsheet, people.
Oh yeah.
And then we have, I think the next one's coming out is the Inquisitor book. That like the Inquisitor book's not coming out. It actually might be. Actually, weirdly enough, might be coming out the day we're at Galaxy's Edge.
All right, cool. So maybe the week or two after that, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Right on, y'all. I think we did it. This was super fun as always, y'all. Really enjoy speaking with you. Hope you're enjoying listening. Sorry, our transmissions have been interrupted a bit. We're doing our best. Yes, we're trying. But have a lovely week, y'all. We'll talk to you next week. And as always, may the Force be with you.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.